Okay, well, we want to welcome everyone today. Glad to have you with us. We're going to go ahead and get started. Today, we're doing a Doctor of Engineering program overview and happy to meet everyone. Looks like we're gathering people as we go here, so we'll go ahead and get started. And with any questions, feel free to use that Q&A down at the bottom of your screen there. We'll be gathering Q&As as we go, so know that at the very end, we'll go ahead and answer those for you. Today's agenda, I want to tell you a little bit about Purdue University as a school, go through online coursework at Purdue, make sure that you're understanding that modality and what it looks like when it gets delivered to you. Talk about an applied doctorate, what that means as far as delivery, and then program timeline, see what it kind of parses out to year by year, term by term. Curriculum we'll talk through in detail and kind of go through each of those pieces, including research, and then course options. And then finally, we're going to go full circle and come back to what to do now if you're open to apply, what it means to pay for the program, and actually get in to start with us this term or next term. So again, please use that Q&A feature to ask any questions. Feel free to add those as we go. We're going to have our program manager, Allison, monitoring and kind of gathering those throughout the hour. Maybe just for a quick double check on my visuals, Allison, are you seeing the right screen in front of you? Perfect. So my name is Ryan. I'm Ryan Watson. I work with the senior enrollment position here, and I basically help you through the admissions process, go over program details, kind of establish initial contact with you from the moment that you express interest in the program. I work closely with our marketing team. You may see that we've got a number of pages that kind of refer to the program, but I'm here to walk you through some initial details as you're planning your journey. I'll work with you up to the point that you apply and are admitted. And if admitted and starting the program, you'll then get turned over to the success team, which includes our success coaches and advising team. But we're actually a much broader team, and maybe Allison, as you introduce yourself, you can explain a little bit more about that too.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Allison, and I'm a senior program manager. I sort of take a big picture, holistic view of everyone who's working on the Doctor of Engineering program. I have a portfolio of programs that I work on, and D.Eng is my pride and joy. I love working on the Doctor of Engineering program. So excited to talk to you more as we go through.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Well, what we'll do to get started is kind of get to know you all. At this point, we've got upwards of 50 people with us. So I'm going to attempt to launch a poll here. We'll see if this works. The idea is to get to know where you're from. So give me just a moment here and we'll see if I can launch that for you. Should be popping up on your screen. Where are you from? Eastern part of the US, Western, Midwest, Southern states, or overseas? Feel free to answer that. We'll give you 10, 15 seconds. For reference, we are actually spread out across the country as a team. Happen to have a campus in West Lafayette, Indiana, just a couple hours south of Chicago and maybe an hour north of Indianapolis. So that's our flagship campus and where we're based out of. Okay, we're going to go ahead and end the poll and I'll share the results with you. Looks like, as usual, we've got a preponderance of people from the Midwest, some out in the West, and excuse me, I've got a timer. Just a moment. Alexa, turn off. Technology is with us all the time. Midwest, we've got 13 out of 35 people, about 37% of you, as well as about 11 of you over in the Western states. So moving forward, we're going to look at a couple of points here. One's going to be Purdue as an entity. So it's the #1 public university based out of Indiana here in the Midwest, based on a U.S. News and World Report from last year. Campuses all over, including Fort Wayne, we've got Northwest, we've got Indianapolis is a newer campus for us, and we've actually got, at this point, 150 years under our belts. So we've been around for quite a while. We are a top 10 most innovative university in the U.S. We have 7 years running in this spot, again, by the U.S. News and World Report, as of last year, the most recent rankings. Purdue University Online is a top 10 public university. We, according to Newsweek, are a top 3 America's top online college. And we also have online degrees and certificates from the prestigious flagship campus here in West Lafayette. It's the same rigor delivered by the same folks who actually teach here on campus. They're often developing that curriculum and delivering it to you. We're a best-in-class online program, perfect for working professionals and career enhancement, looking for those who are hoping to move upward into upper management, maybe already there into C-suite, executive roles, certainly in the private sector, as well as in government and military. We're a high value, high quality and affordable education We've actually had undergraduate tuition frozen for over a decade now at Purdue. And so we're kind of known for that with the convenience of learning wherever you happen to be at your pace. We'll talk more about delivery, when to get started, how frequently you'll take classes, and what to expect, but just want to make those kind of points known to you now.
In
And with
terms
that,
of
we'll turn things over to Elise.
Yeah, sorry, Ryan, diving in. So yeah, in terms of the College of Engineering, I feel like engineering is synonymous with Purdue University. So if you're unfamiliar with the legacy of engineering at Purdue, I highly encourage you to do a little bit of research, but engineering is a big deal at Purdue. And when you're in an online engineering program, you are part of the flagship Purdue West Lafayette campus. You're just doing it from afar. So you get all of the same legacy and reputation that follows you as someone in a Purdue West Lafayette engineering program. The same programs. In terms of rankings, we have for a long time been in the top 5 top engineering online programs, and we were ranked number 2 last year. Again, we've been number 2 before. We're number 2 again as of 2025. We're really proud of those rankings. It shows a lot of the things that you're seeing up here on this slide. It shows that we have extremely high quality faculty. We try to keep our classes relatively small. Almost 90% of our faculty teaching online are tenure track faculty. I really like to highlight this one because it is different from a lot of other universities. We don't hire limited term lecturers, adjunct faculty, or temporary faculty to teach our online classes. You're getting instruction from the same faculty member that is teaching that exact same class on campus. So that's, I think, a really cool and differentiating feature of our program. Um, at Purdue, we celebrated 150 years of engineering in 2024, and we have 11 different schools and departments in the College of Engineering. The beauty of the online Doctor of Engineering program is that you're not limited to taking classes or working with faculty in any one of these schools. You can work with people in nuclear, civil, electrical, mechanical, all the way through. So it's a highly interdisciplinary approach to engineering with that same kind of quality and legacy that comes along with it.
All right. We're going to dive into learning online at Purdue. And again, this is an asynchronous format, a little bit different from what you may be used to if you've done those Zoom lectures where you'll sit down Thursday night at 7 o'clock and have a couple of hours with your instructor. The idea here is that you're doing this at your own speed. You're taking classes week to week with assignments, of course. And in terms of entire projection for the program, we'd say 4 to 6 years. But to get through it week to week, it's really up to you to make those assignments work. So you have the readings, the discussion boards, potentially group work. Those would be the only synchronous meetings would be the group work and work with your committee. But otherwise, you're looking at outside readings, maybe watching a video lecture. We do have occasional recordings sent to you, projects, certainly papers and case studies, and non-proctored exams. The idea here is that you're working full-time, you're busy folks. We understand that, and we want to accommodate different time zones, different work weeks, different shifts for that matter. So just know that you won't have any sit-down synchronous meetings as you go through. Our faculty is typically on campus delivering to you. We do have some who are remote as well, but the calendar is a standard academic calendar. Most classes are 16 weeks, 8 or 12. And again, we have 3 starts, January, May, and August. So we'll kind of dive into those a little bit here in a bit. Let me go ahead and move forward to a next slide for Allison.
Thanks, Ryan. So a lot of times we get asked what the key differences are between a traditional PhD and a professional doctorate. And I think this Venn diagram does a pretty good job of explaining it. Both degrees hold value in academic and professional spaces. They both confer the title of doctor, and they both have a huge emphasis on research. Beyond those similarities, though, they're very different programs, and who you are entering into the program will look very different whether if you're on the PhD track or the D.Eng track. On the residential PhD side, the guiding philosophy is really around theory and scholarship. You're working on developing a new theory. You're probably working extremely closely with a Purdue faculty member or team as part of a research group, probably working in a lab on campus, working full-time on campus. It's a full-time residential program. Often students coming into PhDs don't have industry experience yet. You might be coming straight out of undergrad. You maybe did the undergrad, master's, now PhD track, but you're usually really focused on academia and the sort of research model. Um, and usually you're kind of early in your career. The professional D.Eng is really designed for mid-career professionals who are working full-time in industry. You have at least 5 years of experience. Most of our students have an average of 10 to 13 years of professional experience as engineers. You are likely working with an employer who has identified a problem, or you've identified a problem, but your employer says, hey, let's work on a solution to that together. We can do that in conjunction with this program. You'll be in the program working on a real world issue, doing your research, ideally in industry with your employer, while also having all of the support and research rigor and backing of this amazing public research institution, and a faculty member who's guiding and mentoring you along the way. But the research on the D.Eng side is much more student directed than on the PhD side, which is much more faculty directed. So you're not going to come into our D.Eng program with a loose idea of sort of what you'd like to do and then rely on a faculty member to direct it. You're going to come in with a pretty specific idea of what you'd like to do, and the faculty member is going to help support you, as is hopefully your industry partner and employer. So just a slightly different model there. In terms of the timing of the program, this is a little snapshot of everything you'll be working on in your first 3 years of the program. We expect that it will take you somewhere between 4 to 6 years to complete the program. So this is a lengthy commitment that you're signing on to. It's because you're taking it online and part-time. You go a little slower. You move a little slower through the program. In the first year, you're going to be really focusing on taking care of your core course requirements, your fundamental course requirements, and starting on your plan of study. Your plan of study is just what it sounds like. It's an official documented record of what you plan to do with your degree. It will adjust and change as you go through your program, so you're not locked in. But during your first semester, we want you to do a few things. Enroll in our fundamental class to get you ready for the program and start thinking about all of this. Identify and get commitment from a faculty advisor who you will be working with. Everyone is required to have a faculty mentor. And then you'll start doing some outreach to the rest of your dissertation committee, the rest of the folks who will guide and support your research and your plan. As you get a little further into the program, you'll start thinking about research. You'll prepare for that. We have a research fundamentals course you'll take, and a training that Purdue requires. And then at some point, maybe near the end of your first year, start of your second, you'll start engaging in research. As you go through the rest of your program, you'll be kind of weaning off coursework and taking more research as you go. At some point, after you've taken at least 9 credits of research, you'll also take your preliminary exam. This is the first exam we have as part of the dissertation process. It is designed for you to present sort of your first chapter of your thesis, what you've been working on in your research, get feedback, get ideas to move forward, and for your committee to evaluate that you're ready to really deepen and dive into your research further. At the end of your program, you will have a final exam, which has a oral and written component. The written component is your written thesis. And then you will deposit your thesis and graduate when you're done. So that's a real quick and dirty overview of the timing of the program. Speaking of the people that you'll be working with here at Purdue beyond all of our program staff and the amazing support networks that you have, I've mentioned the faculty advisor person a few times. You will have a primary graduate chair who is a faculty member. They must have regular faculty status, so they're tenure track faculty, full-time faculty, they've done research, they've supervised other PhD students, and they'll be working with you as your primary advisor here at Purdue. This relationship is extremely important and cannot be minimized. So I would say if you're early in the stages of looking at the program, one of the best things you can do is start looking at our faculty. Think about the areas you're interested in, the research you're interested in conducting, and see if we have faculty who align with those interests. If you can't find a faculty advisor that can support the area that you're interested in researching for, this program will not be a good fit for you. But if you can find faculty, multiple faculty ideally, that are working on things that interest you, then you're probably on the right track. You don't have to wait until you apply to the program or are accepted to the program to reach out to faculty. You actually can reach out now, learn more about their research, see if they'd be interested in working with you, see if they have capacity to work with another Doctor of Engineering student. This usually relationship gets finalized in your first semester. So if you're not ready to do your outreach, or if you've already applied, you haven't done it, don't worry. You'll have time and support to start working on this relationship. Um, Once you have that person in place, they will likely give you some advice about who the rest of your committee members can be. So you don't necessarily need to think too much about the rest of your committee, but know that you will have at least two other Purdue faculty members. Your chair has to be in the College of Engineering. So a lot of times we have students who find someone in our Purdue Polytechnic Institute. That's great. That person could still be on your committee, but they cannot be your chair. Your chair has to be someone in an engineering department. And then you have to have at least one other committee member also from engineering. So most students end up with three faculty members from Purdue and then one non-Purdue faculty member. So I want to talk about this committee member for a second with you. This is an important piece of the program and something that really differentiates it from both our Doctor of Technology program and a traditional residential PhD. You are more or less required to have someone from industry on your committee. It's because of this close connection, applied research model that you're working through in the program. Ideally, this is someone from your employer. The best surefire way to get your application looked at really closely is to mention that you've already talked to your employer, that you have employer support for the program, and that you have a person identified who could potentially be on your committee. That is an incredibly strong way to present yourself when you apply. Ideally, this person's at your employer and they have a terminal degree. If you find someone wonderful who you want to work with at your employer who does not hold a terminal degree, they still can work with you. We'll just have sort of an unofficial relationship with that person on your committee. They still can attend your committee meetings, attend your exams at the discretion of your faculty chair, but they're not going to be officially on record. So you will have to find an additional, probably Purdue faculty member who can round out the required four-person committee. So I hope that makes sense, but the industry partner is an exciting and fundamental part of your committee and something to be thinking about early. Okay, a little bit about the requirements for the degree. If you want to scan that QR code real quick, if you happen to, it's a link to all of our online courses, so you can kind of see the vast online course offerings that we offer for engineering courses. That's all of our engineering, math, and statistics courses currently available online. Um, for the Doctor of Engineering program, you're usually going to start with your core requirements. Those are those ENGR courses at the top, 601, 602, and 603. These courses really set you up well to be in an online doctorate, to start your research, to find your faculty, to round out your committee, all the things I just discussed. We also have a requirement of one math class and one statistics class, although if you took math or stat as part of your master's degree, you can get that waived. Other than that, we have a big, wide open eh, degree plan. So everyone's degree plan will look a little bit different based on your master's degree, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. But in general, you can see that we emphasize technical depth, professional and applied, and then open-ended electives as sort of the way we hierarchically define the degree. We want to see plenty of technical classes, some professional applied, and then some maybe open-ended things. If you are intersecting a different industry that's outside of engineering, you might take some management classes, you might take some science classes, you might take some computer science classes, you might take some data classes. So things like that, you can use those elective credits for. And then we have a minimum 30 credit research requirement. So as you can see, it's a big chunk of your program. Usually about half of your program is spent on research. And some students will do more than 30 credits, but 30 credits is the minimum for research. It's a 90 total credit program. However, the majority of our students are going to transfer 30 credits from one conferred master's degree, which brings the total down to 60. So almost all of our D.Eng students are in a 60 credit program. And that's why I was saying that your degree plan is going to look a little bit different. And Ryan, we can go to the next slide and I'll talk more about the transfer credit process and explain further. So the timing on this is basically that you apply, you get accepted, you accept your enrollment, and then anytime after that point, all the way through basically your first semester, you can submit your transfer credit proposal. It's a document that our academic advisor will send to you. You fill it out, and you can fill in the details from one master's degree. So if you have, definitely have students who have multiple master's degrees. You'll need to select which degree you'd like us to evaluate credit from and then propose how the credits will be applied to the degree. So in other words, if you have a sort of traditional engineering master's degree, a more technical degree, you're probably going to get most of your technical requirements for this program met. So what you're going to end up with is a more professional applied Doctor of Engineering degree. You're going to have coursework that's maybe a little bit more applied in nature and professional in nature. If you have a less technical master's degree, maybe you have an MBA or an engineering management degree, some systems engineering degrees. Those degrees are going to come in as mostly a professional and applied credits and electives, probably. So you're going to end up with more of a technical Doctor of Engineering degree. So your master's degree does directly impact the type of program you end up taking, but it won't impact your research. The research stays intact. You have 30 credits of research to work with, and all students have to take our core course requirements. So you'll always take the core courses. You'll always have that big research component that is customizable to you and your goals. But the coursework that you select is going to be sort of defined into those buckets based on the master's degree that you have. In terms of transfer policy requirements, you must have a B or better on your coursework from your master's degree, and it has to come from an accredited institution. And then one degree, one institution is what you're going to end up proposing. So hopefully that answers some of those questions. This is another visual timeline, essentially, of what the program looks like and the way you're going to work through it chronologically. These are our main dissertation milestones. It should look a little familiar since it mirrors what we just showed in that graphic. You're going to use our fundamentals course, ENGR 601, and your academics advisor and a faculty advisor if you have one, but some don't have it right away. So you're going to use our academic advisor and that course to start working on your plan of study. Around this same time, you're going to finalize your faculty advisor, and then you will also start working on your committee. Once your committee is in place, you need at least 2 additional Purdue faculty members for your plan of study. So your chair and 2 other Purdue faculty members, and then you can submit your plan of study. The industry partner member I spoke about won't sign off on your plan of study. They are not required to. So you'll just have the Purdue faculty part of your committee working on your plan of study. You'll then start working on your research, moving towards your prelim, eventually your final, and then at the end of your program, you'll deposit your thesis with Purdue. We keep it on file, and you'll graduate. So those are the main milestones that you'll work through. A lot of times, because students come from a wide variety of disciplines, you might really be focused on mechanical engineering or aero or electrical or something like that. We just like to make sure you know that in this program, your diploma will look like this. It will say Doctor of Engineering and nothing else. So you could be a true specialist in a particular discipline. You could focus all of your coursework for the program in one engineering discipline if you'd like. But the diploma is always going to read the same for all of our students. So we just like to show you what it's going to look like so you're aware.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Allison. We're going to give her a sec to kind of look through your Q&As. And again, feel free to populate those as you have questions. Let's do another poll question. Again, just getting a gauge, temperature check. How many years of engineering experience do you have? So we do work with people from a range of different backgrounds. And allow me just a moment here, pull this poll up for you. If you have less than a year there, let us know. 2 to 5 years, 6 to 9 years, or a decade plus. Typically, we're working with people who have as a minimum qualification that 5 years. We do see people that sometimes have decades. So we do have people who are mid to late career as well. I would say the majority of students who I see coming in are usually early to mid career. Mid career is pretty common. So let us know how many you've got, and we'll go ahead and share this out in just a moment. Okay, sharing the results now. Looks like we have 9 of you with 2 to 5 years, 3 of you with 6 to 9 years, and wow, 27 of you, maybe about half of you with a decade plus. So appreciate that. Thank you for that information. And again, this is a program really designed for anyone in any stage of work. So we're happy to work with you at that 5-year minimum qualification. Let's go through some of the cost. And I know this piece can take a little bit of slowed down explanation. So I'm going to try to speak a little bit slower here and walk you through each one of these pieces. Tuition is really based on in-state and out-of-state residency. We are a public institution, so we actually have in-state residency requirements. We'll bring you that in-state tuition amount. And for students that live and reside in Indiana, it'll be $1,139 per credit. For those out of state, outside of Indiana, it'll be 1459, $1,459 per credit. Again, this program is 90 credits. In most cases, you'll receive that full 30 credits, up to at least 30 based on your transfer credits that you bring to us. Now, it's not something we can pre-qualify necessarily. We really do want to see those transcripts uploaded, part of the application. We can kind of do those piece by piece and let you know that number. But based on that, let's use 60 as a ballpark here. I would say that in-state tuition would be somewhere in the ballpark of $68,000 to $70,000. That's for the entire program. And if you're out of state, somewhere between 85 and 90,000. Now, there will be books involved. Certainly, if you're going to be purchasing some of those, there will be digital resources. But for the most part, the tuition numbers are the biggest amount that you can anticipate and do stand in for the total you can expect. We typically are trying to deliver this 3 times per year. You're paying 3 times per year. So as you register for classes, you'll pay each semester as you go. It's typically at the beginning of the semester. We do have a drop period, so a lot of students will take classes and within that first week or so choose to drop because it's not the best fit or wasn't what they thought it was. You can also pick up classes during that period, so it's an add drop period. So there is a point in which you're kind of locked in terms of grades and would get a withdrawal as opposed to a drop and no grade. So we use that typically to assign tuition, and you would also be able to play this a couple different ways. Payments and financing. So financial assistance is a bit kind of a broad umbrella term that we would use to really cover a lot of different things. One is Stafford loans, Grad Plus loans, or private loans. These are typically in the federal or the private space. We would ask that you look these up with our financial aid division. Typically, they can give you the most accurate information. At the same time, you will be receiving as part of this webinar an invitation to attend this coming Tuesday and Financing Your Education webinar. That's across all our programs. Big webinar. I think it'll be this same time, actually, a week from now. So do keep an eye out for that invitation if you haven't gotten that one yet. Loans are one way to borrow your way through the program. Typically, the amount will be about $20,000 per year. It's not based on your income, not based on your merit. Those are typically, you apply through the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, and get those put in place year to year, 20,000. There are a couple of disqualifications for that, and we can go through those, but for the most part, you're able to borrow towards the majority of this degree and pay it simply by using loans if that's your choice. There's also Grad Plus above and beyond that. Some of these loans have actually changed as a result of the big, beautiful bill, which was passed earlier last year. So kind of keep in mind that this could be affecting 2026 semesters. We have installment plans. If you'd like to use that to kind of parse out what you're paying, as often as every other week, I think in some cases. So work with our bursar on that to make sure that you're paying what you need to, but have that drafted or have it in place against a credit card and pay as you go. Third-party employer payments. This is the big one for us. So often you're using this research to benefit your company. We would consider this a win-win for the university from the research that you're developing as a part of our institution, a win for you as the student, but also a win for your employer. So everything that you're doing is really meant to serve those 3 entities and yourself especially. If it's benefiting your employer, and it should be, that's something that they can potentially use in the future and would be a cost-saving measure or an efficiency. So we'd encourage, if you could, to look into your HR and financial backing with your company, see if they'd be backing you at all, and if they'd like to pay you upfront and actually cover your tuition as you go, or reimbursed as you go through each class and pass it. If you do have military benefits, we have the Veterans and Success Center. That's for veterans and active duty military. That is at an email address that is here on the screen. If you're just listening today, it's dogtags@purdue.edu, DOGTAGS at purdue.edu. Feel free to reach out to them anytime, kind of qualify yourself in terms of program. Is the program covered? D.Eng typically is, but I just want to make the note that you need to make that assessment and reach out to them yourself. Also, make sure that what you have in place, GI Bill, Yellow Ribbon, is something that you can apply in for how many months or however it is being afforded to you, so you can cover some, a majority, or all of the program potentially. I did want to mention this only because it's so recent. The Federal Academic Alliance and this address is actually a defunct program. It was sunsetted out last month in January, actually 2 months ago now, and that is no longer in place. That was a 10-year long running federal academic assistance program. It was a 5% discount if you're employed in the public sector underneath the federal government. So that is no longer in place. But we do want to make sure that you've got some plans in terms of payment arrangements. And if you have any questions about any of these models, feel free to reach out to us. Estimated time to complete, again, 4 to 6 years. That's really just kind of going according to credits, but also your research project. And it's at your own pace according to class availability. So what's available term to term? We do, as Allison mentioned, have some ways for you to look up classwork and see what's out there on the web. There's also some resources if you'd like those sent to you by email. I've got a PDF that might be helpful. And they kind of break it down by sequencing when they're offered and under which umbrella. So feel free to keep those in mind. Exams, again, here we're talking about preliminary and final exam, and then your defense. Those are all part of that research component that Allison touched on earlier. If you're looking at applying, we're going to go through those steps one by one here, but I thought I'd do one last poll with you. If you could let us know, let me go ahead and pull that up. The question is, do you plan to apply to Purdue and to this program? If you've already started working on your summer application, know that that starts up soon. That deadline is actually in 4 weeks. So we were very intentional today about delivering this webinar a full 4 weeks before that deadline. Wanted to give you all a heads up that you can get in for the summer term if you'd like to. The fall term will be starting up in August. That's typically our biggest terms in terms of enrollment. It's a large, let's use the word cohort, although you're not with your group of students throughout the duration of the program, that changes pretty quickly. But for those that want to join us in August, we have a July 1st deadline. So about 4 months to get into that. And then again, January of next year with the November 1st deadlines. We'll put that up on the screen for you in a moment here. Give it just another 5 seconds for answers to come in, and I'll share this out. Okay, so some of you already started working on the fall application, 7 of you. Looks like you have some interested down the road, and probably a third of you or so still weighing your options. So I would say definitely reach out to us with any questions about how to go through this application process, but more importantly, what is your background? Do you meet minimum qualifications? We're happy to look over resumes, talk about your professional experience, academic experience, make sure that it's a good fit for us and for you. So do reach out to us. So with that, let's go through admissions, and we'll take another probably 5-10 minutes on this piece. At the very end here, we're going to do some Q&A. So again, please continue to put questions in the Q&A there for Allison to review. Admission requirements. We'll need at least 2 essays. They're each a page or 2 each. We say 300 to 500 words is about right. One's an academic statement of purpose, really goes through what you've done in terms of your credentials. Have you gotten certificates, professional development work, a bachelor's degree, master's, multiple of either. Maybe you've gotten a couple of master's degrees. In some cases, people have actually attempted doctoral work. So we want to hear about that and what you've attempted, what you've done successfully, and maybe where you had some trouble. Personal history statement here. Talk more about your personal ambitions with this program. Why this program now? Maybe you're 28 and just in the early stages of career, but you're really gung-ho about having this doctorate under your belt. Or maybe you're later, in your 50s and you've been through a number of working decades, and at this point you're in upper level management and you want to move into executive work, and you think that this will separate and distinguish you. Talk about that a little bit with your background. In terms of English proficiency, that is a requirement typically for non-native speakers. We do have some country by country breakdowns that I can share with you. It really depends on your country of origin, current citizenship, and we can walk through if you need to take a test like the TOEFL or the Duolingo, who would need to do that. Transcripts, this is a really, it catches people off guard. So I always say, put this front and center when you start to apply to Purdue, especially this program. All schools you've attended, so community college. If you have a couple credits from somewhere and it counted, go ahead and submit transcripts. Your bachelor's degree, multiple degrees, any school you've attended. And we can't use third-party transcripts. So if you've been to a school, transfer credits into them, we can't use that secondary transcript. You need to go ahead and get it from that school that issued the credit to you. So that does mean a little bit of work on your end. The good news is we do use parchment, and Purdue is willing to go out there and find if your school is participating those transcripts on your behalf and bring them in. In many cases overseas, that's not an option. Or if you've got a non-participating school, you'll need to get those yourself. But there are a couple of ways to do that pretty quickly these days over the websites. 3 recommendations. We're going to have a little bit of leeway here, but Allison, I might ask you to chip in if you're willing. 3 recommendations to me would read 3 professional recommendations with 1 academic preferred, but how would you phrase it?
Yeah, I would say that if you already know that you're going to be working with your employer as your industry partner, or you have that industry partner identified, it is highly, highly recommended that you have at least one letter of support from that organization. It doesn't need to be the individual, but from that company. If you're going to be working with your employer, we really like to see at least one letter from someone at your employer. And ideally, you have one letter of recommendation that can speak to your academic background. So if you completed a master's degree in the last 5 to 8 years, we definitely want to see a letter. If it's 10 plus years ago that you were in your master's degree, then it's a little less relevant. So it's really going to depend on your specific case and background, but definitely the letters need to all be from either a professional or academic source. No relatives, no colleagues that you haven't really directly worked with. So that's the important piece about the letters. You should think hard about who writes those letters for you.
Great point. And 2, in terms of expediency, we're looking at an April 1st deadline. That's a tight turnaround if you're hoping to join us this summer. So do recommend that you reach out to those recommenders right away. Let them know, hey, I'm considering or I am applying. I'll be using your name and email address. They'll get a secure link. They use that to go into the system and provide that recommendation. You have the option to waive the right to see those letters, so you can choose not to, and they've got some privacy there, or you can request to see those. But the idea being that we want to get these things kind of front-loaded. So transcripts, recommendations are out of your control in some ways. So we'd ask that you do that very early on in the process. Essays, resume, you can do that more on your own time. Again, minimum qualifications, a bachelor's degree is a must, a master's degree is a must, with at least one of those being in engineering. There's some definitions here we'd be happy to kind of parse through with you if you're in the CS space or something like that. But work with us and let us know what your background is. At least 1 degree in engineering, 2 is great as well. And then for your master's, a minimum 3.0 or better GPA. Traditional grading scale and 4.0 scale. At least 5 years relevant industry experience. And then, of course, that industry partner piece that we talked about really does come up in ways that we're trying to emphasize as a requirement, but it's because the program is so different and unique. And it's really a neat facet of this D.Eng program that you get to involve your own employer. For some people, that's daunting, and maybe to find that person, your SME, is going to take some work, but it means it's really hands-on and it's not so theoretical, but just highly applied. And it's really real-world data that you're applying to find a novel solution to. So we encourage you to start to think about that early on. Deadlines, one last time, fall semester, big intake. Work with me. I'm happy to work with you. It shouldn't take you more than 30 days to get through the application. No GRE, no tests, no GMAT, nothing that you have to really put months into. It will be those transcripts and recommendations out of your control, but get those requested early. Your 2 essays, your resume. To apply is $60 domestic or $75 if you're overseas. Spring semester, November 1st, if you want to join us, start that brand new January, early on, kind of interest in starting a new program and a fresh start, feel free to join us then. Or again, for this summer, I will be taking students for the next month, potentially working with students now. If you want to reach out to me as soon as this week, we'll put my email address here on the last slide. Feel free to let me know, and I'm happy to walk you through that process. I think with that, we have made it to Q&A. So this slide here, again, I work with a recruitment enrollment counselor position here, and I'm happy to help you through any questions you have as far as program outlay, to get you in touch with program management if you need, if we need to get you in touch with Allison, specific questions, talk about transfer credit, application cost, tuition, just reach out to me at this email address here. So we'll answer what we can in the live format, and I'll let Allison kind of manage that particular portion.
Thanks, Ryan. I just wanted to add something on to those start date pieces that Ryan was discussing. So if you are trying to decide between a summer start and a fall start, or maybe you're thinking, summer feels a little soon, I'm going to wait until I'm just going to go for fall. Summer can actually be a really great time to start this program. We have a 1 credit introductory class that all students have to take their first semester in the D.Eng program. It's like the fundamentals course. It prepares you for being an online professional doctorate student. It's not a particularly challenging class. It's just a very helpful, supportive class. Summer is a shorter term than fall and spring. Fall and spring are both 16-week semesters. Summer is either an 8-week or a 12-week semester. And the 1 credit intro class is an 8-week class, whether you take it in fall, spring, or summer. So it can be a really, if you're on the fence, I would encourage you to consider trying to get that application in for summer and starting with the 1 credit only, just the 1 credit class in the summer. It's already an 8-week course. It starts in June. So it's not a May start. You have a little more time to get started. And then it's an 8-week course. You're all set up. And then fall, you can really hit the ground running and take more courses. So I actually really like a summer start. It's also a smaller cohort. So although we don't, like Ryan said, you're going to lose track of your cohort as you go, you do have a group of students you start with, and you do tend to get to know those colleagues a little bit better. So it's an easy way to do that with a smaller group. So if you have the ability to apply by early April, if you're thinking like you might need a little more time, let Ryan know. We can usually work with you a bit on that deadline, because it's really a June start, not so much of a May start. But I do encourage you to consider summer. Okay, we have some great questions, Ryan, and I'm gonna pass a couple to you to start with. Okay, so 2 questions about kind of the timeline to apply and start the program. One question about finishing an undergraduate degree in 2027. And so the question is essentially, how early can I apply when I'm still enrolled in my master's degree? And then the second question is sort of the opposite. I applied, I was accepted, and I had to decline my offer because of work and life and etc. How can I get back in the pool, and is it too soon for me to reapply?
Okay, let me go in reverse order. I appreciate that. A decline offer is typically a decline offer if you've said no to it. We would have you reapply. Now, the good news is that we can often, within a year's time, maybe even past that year and a half or so, have items that have not been purged. So the general rule is your application is good for 1 year. Application items you submit should still be in existence. We can use them. They do get purged after a year. So if you get transcripts into us, even though they may be on the file somewhere or kept, they're essentially not in active use or being able to be pulled up and used again. So if you've declined your offer, you would apply once more, and typically we can get you in for the subsequent term that's coming up. Based on that new application, you could be considered for admission. Admission is a 3-part process in terms of review. We actually have this go through a really, I think, nice kind of sequencing where it goes through program management first. They give it a first pass. It's given to faculty for a very close look in terms of what they see in terms of research fit, and then eventually over to the Office of our Graduate Studies admissions office. And they'll kind of look at those kind of dotted I's and crossed T's. So in answer to the second question, how soon could I apply? Applications are usually in place or populated a year ahead of time. So if you want to get going now for something for 2027, if it populates in the application system, and we'll give you those links pretty readily here, feel free to go ahead and get that started. A year from now would be probably our January 2027 start, within a year, not quite to our summer term at this point. One other thing I'd mention is if you apply early and you only have a bachelor's, we do need to have a conferred master's to really get you through that full review. So if you're in the midst of your master's, I would say give it, until you're about 3 to 4 months within completion Go ahead and get everything turned in within that few months. And then your very last piece will be that master's transcript reflected on your transcripts there that show that you've got it conferred.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Okay, there's some groupings of questions here, so I'm going to do my best to try to answer those together. Just put a follow-up question in the Q&A though if I don't answer your exact question that you're looking for. A couple questions about the experience requirement. So for the professional experience requirement, can internships, co-ops count toward the years, or is it strictly post-undergrad full-time experience? And then someone else who doesn't quite have the 5 years but's close, already at a mid-level, could they still apply? Okay, these are great questions, and I would say if you think that you're qualified in the sense that you feel like you have real world experience, you have a research idea that you'd like to explore, you're committed to the 4 to 6 year kind of timeline of this program, and you potentially have an employer or a future employer that you think you could work with on your research, then I would say go ahead and apply. You're not going to be admitted if you only have like 1 year of experience. It's not going to happen because, like I said, most of our students have way more than the 5 years. I think that internships and co-ops can certainly add towards the total. But if that is the only experience you have and you don't have any employer on your resume for like a full-time position, then I would hold off. I would wait till you have a little bit more experience. The reason really is that you're pretty self-directed in this program. You're not going to have, your faculty advisor who you're working with here at Purdue, they're not going to be on your case every semester making sure that you're working through your research. It's on you as the student to make sure that you're completing your coursework, you're moving through your program in a timely manner, you're pursuing your research, you're checking all the boxes. That person is there for you as support, but they're not supervising what you're doing. You are supervising what you're doing, essentially. So you need to be, a competent professional who can manage that and who has enough self-directedness to get through the program. It is because of the flexibility, requires a great amount of accountability to yourself to get through the program. So that's more what the experience requirement is in the spirit of rather than a hard and fast rule. So I hope that helps. Um, all right, next, I want to talk a little bit about intellectual property and non-disclosure. We have some questions around this, great questions, super relevant. Obviously, you're working closely with your employer. Your employer might be directing your research projects, but then you're supposed to also be sharing that information with Purdue. You can imagine that can create a conflict for sure. We have a really helpful handout that we've actually just finalized that sort of lays out the 3 different IP scenarios that our students experience with their research. And I'm going to ask if Ryan can include that along with the slides and send it to everybody in follow up because I think it's a really good background and links to all of Purdue's policies as well. The simplest answer I can give is that Purdue's going to work with you and your employer. NDAs are not a problem. Your faculty advisor signing an NDA, your whole committee signing NDAs for your employer, that's not a problem. We can even do course level NDAs if you're going to try to bring employer data into course projects. It's less rare. Usually the students that you're in class with are not fully employed. So the homework and things you're working on for your classes, the projects you're working on are theoretical. You're not having to bring in real world information from your employer. So that's a little less common, but it's all possible. Purdue has a long, long history of working with industry. We are probably one of the most sort of flexible, supportive institutions when it comes to industry relations. Now, we also have to make sure we protect the IP of our faculty and our institution as well. So that's why there are these different scenarios that you should look at to determine what best fits your case. If you're going to be working less with your employer and more with Purdue faculty, then IP may actually fall and belong to Purdue and belong to the faculty member that's working with you. But if you're working mostly with your employer and the faculty advisor is more just serving to make sure you're meeting the requirements, maybe giving a little bit of guidance, but no intellectual property knowledge, IP is going to reside with your company. And then there's that middle ground where it's a collaboration, faculty members working directly with your employer, you're the go-between. In that case, there needs to be some agreements and contracts and things signed. And that is also a possibility. We have an academic lead for this program, a faculty member who will work directly and closely with you, your employer, and your faculty advisor at Purdue if need be. So it's all possible is the easiest answer I can give. Okay, let's see. A question about traveling to campus. So this person is outside the US asking how many times they need to come to campus, but we get this question from domestic students or domestic residents as well. Do I have to come to campus? No. You don't have to come to campus. You are welcome to come to campus. We love it when students come for commencement, graduation, walk across the stage, get your hood. You have every right to do that, and you should do it, even though you completed all your courses online. So it's always possible for you to come. We are in process of arranging our first ever on-campus experience for students, but it's fully optional this fall. So we're inviting anyone who's in the program to come to campus for a couple of curated days on campus, but it is fully optional, and we will certainly have plenty of students who don't come. So hopefully that answers that one. Um, let's see, a couple other questions. Um, all right, so some questions about what happens if your plans change in the middle of your program. So, what if you're laid off? What if you change careers? What if you have a dissertation and research idea that changes to, I mean, 4 to 6 years? That's a long time, right? When you're in industry, like you might switch, especially if you're mid-career, you might switch jobs a couple times during the program. That's we understand and expect that. It may mean that your program takes a little longer because if you are making a hard 180 turn from the research plan you had in mind, you're probably going to have to find a new faculty advisor, a new committee, and the research you've started, if you've started any, might not work. You might have to kind of start over with research. So it's all going to be pretty case by case. But we know and expect that industry professionals are going to have changes in their career and their lives through the duration of the program. So changes are not a huge problem. I think what we're looking for in your application when you come in and it's your best chances of getting accepted are a clear idea of what you want to do, the best case scenario, and who you're going to work with on that plan. If you can figure that out once, we have faith that you'll be able to figure that out again if things change for you. So I think we would rather see a more specific and well-defined plan, even if you're not 100% sure that's going to be the plan a year or two from now. So I hope that answers that question. Do we have career outcome data for alumni? Not yet. We just actually had our first graduate this semester, so soon, but we don't. We have some general market information about, increased salary earnings in general, but the Doctor of Engineering degree, the Doctorate of Engineering, is not as common, obviously, as a PhD. So there's not as much data out there to give you. If you are concerned about that or interested in that, please let Ryan know and we can see what we can dig up for you. But we don't have those outcomes quite yet. Just a lot of happy current students. Okay, let's see. Going through these questions. Can your industry application be in a startup? Yes, certainly. Your industry partner, who you're working with, it could definitely be a startup. We have some students who actually have their own companies. They're running their own engineering firms or companies, and that's their industry partner. They might be using someone from a sort of partner company or outside because really the industry partner is meant to give you helpful information to help steer your research in the right direction to make it most applicable to the problem that you're trying to work with and solve. So it's not always helpful just to have like a colleague be your industry partner. You might want to have someone from a different company who really can weigh in on the work you're doing and the value of the work that you're doing to the industry as a whole. But there's no kind of rules or policies about how established or old or well known your company is. Let's see. Okay, another question about how many students have completed graduated. Like I said, we're having our first graduate this semester. So this program just launched last year, January 2025. So we are just over a year into the program. Um, Purdue knows how to manage doctorate degrees really well. So nothing that we're doing in this program is particularly new to Purdue as a whole. We also have a sort of sister program in the Doctor of Technology program, which is also another fully online program. That program has had hundreds of graduates and has been around for a bit longer than ours. So we've taken a lot of great lessons learned from that program. We've modeled some features of our program after that program, and we work really closely together with our partners in Purdue Polytechnic Institute. Um, Hopefully that gives some peace of mind. Um, do you see any, Ryan, do you see any questions you want to grab? I feel like my voice
Sure.
is, people are
You
tired
have
of hearing from me.
No, you're okay. Yeah, we'll wrap up here too, probably about 3 minutes and give you all the minute back to get ready for your next meetings. The credit weight for masters from UK, we do direct transfer. So when you're actually requesting transcripts from the UK and have them sent to us, it should be the official form after you've been admitted. So school to school, never open. But if you're doing it as part of the application review, you can upload what you've got. If it's official and been opened, that's fine. We typically will evaluate it as is. So no need for WES, World Educational Services, ECE, any of those third-party agencies we do not use. So if you're overseas, would request that you get those transcripts directly to us. I'm happy to grab this next one too. Program is typically meant for working professionals. If I'm able to attend full-time, does that reduce the cost and time required to achieve the degree? Short answer is no, and I'll let Allison kind of hop on after I answer. But my thought is full-time really applies to financial aid considerations, part-time, full-time. There's a certain space that when you are in graduate studies or undergraduate studies, you have to have so many credits to be part-time or full-time. But typically for our program, to be in a class or two per term is pretty common. So if you were to get through 15 credits per year, that would get you done in 4 years. So about, the numbers are variable based on your income and credit, but for most, you're going to be getting through about 60 credits. 15 per year for 4 years would be a good number to work with. So a class per two is totally achievable and reasonable. And on top of your workload of 40, 50 plus hour weeks, we probably expect it. So if you're saying that you could do something more than that because you're not working, that kind of leads to the question of employment, industry research partner, and I'll throw to Allison for that.
Yeah, you could be working part-time maybe and pursuing this program in more of a full-time way. I just want to reiterate though what Ryan said. The cost is the same because it's a cost per credit, not a cost per time. You're not paying for the amount of time you're in the program. We don't have additional fees on top of that cost per credit. That's inclusive of all your fees, except for your $125 thesis deposit fee at the end of your program. That is a one-time fee you do in your last semester. Other than that, it's per credit. So you're just going to be paying more every semester if you take more credits, basically, is the way that that calculates. Um, if you were doing this full time and you weren't employed, you probably wouldn't be a good fit for this program. I would recommend you look at one of our PhD programs, honestly, if that's what you're interested in doing. The Doctor of Engineering is really designed for people who have a job and are interested in doing research in the industry that they're working in. Or maybe you've recently made a career change, but you'd like to do some research in the industry you used to be in, like a recent position or something. You're kind of working your way back to that former industry. Basically, you have industry expertise and people, professionals in industry who can support you in your program. That part is really non-negotiable.
Perfect. Well, we are right at time. I'm going to offer one last little bit of resources here for you all. If you could reach out to me, I think what will be auto-generated, unfortunately, is the recording itself. So you're going to be able to have the visual and
Ryan, I'm
audio.
not hearing you, but maybe it's just me.
Oh, are you able to hear me now? Is that any better?
No, I'm not
No.
hearing you. That's so strange. What happened? We've lost Ryan. All right. Well, I think probably what Ryan was saying was we're going to wrap it up. And thank you so much for being here. Ryan's email is there. So please do not hesitate to reach out to him for any questions. If he doesn't have the answer, he will get you the information. And Ryan is really wonderful to work with. So even if you're just sort of looking at the application and trying to figure out when you should do it, I highly recommend trying to get on Ryan's calendar. He's busy, but try to get on there and see if you can't have a conversation about your specific case. We love to start working with you as early as you're interested. Ryan will be sending around the slides, and I'll see if we can't get a couple other helpful handouts for you. We have some employer talking points that I really love to send prospective students so that if you're just starting that conversation with your employer about the program, you can utilize that template. And then we have the intellectual property guide for students as well that employers sometimes like to see too. So we'll see if we can't get that information out to you. If you don't receive that, go ahead and email Ryan. We can get it to you. Um, so anything else, Ryan? You can put in the chat and I can say it.
No, you still can't hear me, I guess.
No, we still
You go
can't hear
ahead and
you.
close out.
Thank you so much for being with us all, and we hope that you have a great rest of your day and week. Take care.